everyone, I'm Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, and I'm pleased to be able to bring another one of our interviews or our series of getting to know county officials and really to shine the light where it needs to be shown. And today I have the absolute honor of being able to talk to Miss Jill Hastings, who is Director of Archives, and it's archivist, right, Jill?
Yes, that's correct.
Did I get it right?
Archivist.
Archivist. Okay, well,
That's close.
I was close. I told you I would have trouble saying
You didn't
that.
say archives.
So how are you today?
I am good.
Good. So Jill, before we get in, because I think what you do is so interesting for Montgomery County, and y'all are really, a lot of people don't really know about our archives department, but before we get into that, I want everybody to know a little bit more about Jill.
Okay,
You can start wherever you want to.
okay. That part I hadn't thought about.
So were you born and raised here?
No, born in San Antonio, Texas.
No kidding.
Grew up in southern Indiana, went to college in Nashville, where I met my husband, and he was in the service. And what brought us to Montgomery County was his appointment at Fort Campbell, his assignment at Fort Campbell. We lived here 3 different times.
No kidding.
3 different times over a long period of time. And so there came a point when I needed to support my family, and I came to work for the county.
And so did you come to work in the role you're in today?
No, I came to work for Wilma Dry, who was the county clerk in 1990.
In 1990.
I have been working for the county I had to stop and think today, 32 years.
That is so awesome.
Well,
Good for you.
Thank you very much. So 27 years in this job, and then 5 years previous to that with the county clerk's office.
So this may not be a good characterization of your office, but I kind of attribute y'all to being the museum for Montgomery County public records or permanent value records.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And we make those available to the public in various forms. Preservation, conservation, that's what we do. That is exactly what we do.
So how many people in your office?
I now have 5 people, 2 potential interns right now, and we have 5 volunteers. So
Awesome.
So we're busy.
And I think for the people out there that watch this, one of the things that's interesting about Jill and her department is if you go to the clerk's office and you have to get certain type of registrations or license or whatever, we have what's called an archive fee.
Yes, and that's wonderful.
And it truly is, because that archive fee 100%
Yes,
funds
the archives.
county archives.
Yes, our salaries, the entire budget,
Equipment,
everything.
and I know just in the last 2 or 3 years, we've upgraded a lot of equipment. We bought some really nice scanners,
Yes, we have.
that type stuff.
Yes.
But Jill, and you may not know, I won't ask specifically about specific records, but I mentioned permanent value records.
And that's our main thing. That is our main goal, is to preserve and care for those records.
And so many of those come with a expectation or a statute that says you have to keep them so many years.
That is correct. Well, the permanent value records are forever records.
Forever records.
The other, within the department is another section called the Record Center, and those are the non-current records. Those are the non-current records that are not required to be kept long-term. Some of them are really long-term, but they're not permanent value. And that is part of our responsibility.
But like some HR records, for example, y'all have to keep them, and you could
a certain amount,
certain amount of time.
Yes.
And so I don't know, once a year or twice a year, I don't know how many times it is, and you're gonna have to help me with the committee name, but there's for lack of a better words, a records committee.
Yes.
What is it called? Help me.
The Public Records, if you hadn't said that, I would.
Public records.
Public Records Commission, And we are by law required to meet 2 times a year.
Okay,
And our responsibility at that is to determine, with the department's help, what they need to destroy, what they need to dispose of, and how do we go about doing that. And
Right.
then the PRC makes the final decision about
Right.
whether we're gonna keep these or destroy
and
them.
so there could be just thousands of records at one of those meetings
Yes.
that commission, and I think by statute, a judge has to be on it.
A judge who serves in the county, a county commissioner, the county historian, the county archivist, the county clerk. I think there's one more.
Yeah.
And a commissioner.
Yeah.
And a commissioner.
And so it's just not this random committee that you select or I select.
No,
It's set by state statute.
that's correct.
And y'all bring these records to the commission,
Yes.
and they have to devote to dispose of them and how to dispose of them.
And we make every effort to make sure that you all who make these decisions have the legal background, the legal TCA
Mm-hmm.
wording that says we can destroy such and such a record. So that, there's a lifespan that works on those records. So in the record center, there are records that are coming and going. There's a cycle
All the time,
all the time,
all the time.
all the time.
So Jill, what does just the average day look like for you?
I wouldn't say there's an average day.
Well, let's say typical then. What about a typical day?
So, one day this week, we had requests for phone calls to be returned, emails to be returned, request for a cemetery deed, request for some probate records, a local person who's working on her DAR application needs records background for her ancestor. We've been working on house histories.
Mhm.
We have, this is more the public eye, but in the back, Steph, who is our record center technician, is constantly surveying these records that we're talking about a while ago.
Right.
That's her regular day, is taking in, documenting these things. People from other departments come to her, call or email
Mhm.
about what do we have that they need to come get it. They need to make arrangements to come hold those records.
Yeah.
The sheriff's department had a large request this week that was quite time consuming. I have 2 ladies that are in the archives part, and their function is to clean, folder, file, scan, document, get the permanent value records in the order in which we want them to be stored
Right.
for permanent.
And you mentioned preservation too. I mean, y'all have and you receive a lot of stuff that's very fragile.
Yes, we do.
I mean, like fragile. And I'm not talking about glass fragile. I'm talking about paper fragile.
Yes, paper fragile.
Yeah.
Because old paper, depending on the time frame, the old paper tends to flake just like old plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can stop that, or at least stop it where it is, we may not be able to prevent it, but we can prevent more damage. So we have sheets that are called mylar, they're polyester, and things that are very fragile, like you're referring to, go in polyester sleeves. Then everything's acid-free. Acid-free folders, acid-free boxes, goes on the shelf.
Yeah. And is it fair to say that the archives department can some kind of be, in some shape, form, or fashion, is kind of like a genealogy department too?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of people that walk in your door
Yes.
that are looking for family history and may not be from Clarksville, Tennessee.
And a lot of them aren't.
Yeah.
A lot of them aren't. Their roots are here, but they're from somewhere else. And I'm sorry, I can't tell you right this week who we've had, but we've had several people from out of town. A busy day for us was like yesterday, and I was out of the office yesterday. We had 6 or 7 people yesterday.
Yeah.
Not counting in the reference area, not counting the record center. That's a really busy day for us.
And they're not in there for like 2 or 3 minutes either.
No, all
They're
day.
usually
All
in there
day.
all day, aren't
Yes.
they?
But that's the best. in reviewing what we might talk about, that to me is the most rewarding part of the job.
Yeah.
Is helping people with that.
So, and I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to, but, a person that I know really well, Danny Perry, who retired from Clarksville Fire Department.
Yes.
2 or 3 years ago, he gave an unbelievable gift to the archives, and just tons and tons of Montgomery County history.
Tons and the best part was, you saw it, we covered all the tables in the reference room with that material. It's mostly pre-Civil War, from the beginning of the county to Civil War era. And because of the background of the people in that collection, the families that were in the collection, touches nearly every family in the county.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, yes, that was a tremendous collection.
Don't you just love stuff like that?
I do, I absolutely do.
I shouldn't laugh about it, but I know you do.
I do.
I know you do, because that's something, and I know he took very good care of that, but he had enough faith and confidence to turn it over to Montgomery County, knowing that those records are gonna be maintained from now on.
And that's an extremely generous
It sure
contribution
is,
to our
it sure
history.
is.
And that's what he thought. He wanted that to be in Montgomery County because it was our history.
So really not a typical day in the archives department.
No, every day is different. When you come to work, you don't know what's going to happen.
So Jill, and I don't really know how to phrase this to you, because of what you do, you capture history.
Yes.
So a long-term challenge is to just ensure that
Yes.
the archives department, but talk about like a short-term challenge and a long-term challenge for your department.
A short and long-term challenge right now for us is our space needs that you are aware of. That we have been in that location for 16 or 17 years. And when it was created, it was supposed to be a 20-year space. And we are way ahead of, we need more space.
Yeah.
That's a short-term goal and a long-term planning goal. And we have other things that we need to address, but that is the most pressing right now. And I know you're aware of that.
Right.
We are trying to make our plans better for what we're doing as far as preservation efforts. As you know, we have this super scanner.
Yeah.
Can I brag?
Sure.
That's the only one in the entire state of Tennessee
That's
and
awesome.
Kentucky.
That's awesome. Montgomery County leading the way. I love
That's
it.
exactly right.
I love it.
We certainly do. I've spent some time I'll rabbit hole for a second, but I've spent quite a bit of time in other archives in Middle Tennessee, and I am bragging in a way.
You should.
But we are far and away ahead of what many of the other archives are in this area, this entire area. The archives fee that we collect has made all the difference in the world, all the difference in the world. But back to the planning, because we have this new equipment, we are changing some of our daily work and how so we can scan some of these things. We have incoming in the next 6 months, probably 400 or 500 boxes of documents that we will be able to eventually dispose of once they're properly taken care of.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
It's a challenge because every department besides us feeds into us, and we try to meet their needs the best we can.
Yeah, I mean, HR, the county clerk, the sheriff's office, I mean, you name it. Y'all are kind of the custodian of so many records.
Yes.
And we're in Veterans Plaza, and you're located on the Crossland Avenue side of Veterans Plaza.
Yes.
Not real easy to find, but
It has a sign.
yeah, it does. It has a sign, so if you're on Crossland and looking at Veterans Plaza,
Yes.
you can find it. And one of the things that amazed me the first time I came in there was back in the big room, the big file room.
Yes.
I mean, there's these files that they're not cabinets, but they are like, what?
They go almost.
Yeah, they're like 12, 14 foot tall.
Yes, they are. And
then you can push them
yes,
and move them and walk between them. I mean,
that's right.
it's pretty neat.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And yes, it is. It is. Yeah, it truly is. I'm also remembering the first time you came over there, and we still had all these things from the tornado that we had not yet been able to dispose of.
Yeah.
And of course, that's all long gone now. But
Yeah.
that was an issue in itself, trying to document those things, go to those departments, the owning departments,
Yeah.
and make sure we got, I don't wanna say rid of, but disposed of those
Right.
things in the proper way.
Right. So I want to go back to Jill. So y'all were at Fort Campbell 3 different times, but in 1990, just decided that, hey, this is where we're going to make our home.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
This is where the children wanted to stay, this is what they considered home, and here we are.
What started you down the path of being a, what do you call it?
An archivist.
Archivist.
Well, I was a professional researcher.
Okay.
Professional genealogist for many, many years. I started when I was in high school doing family research. And by the time when I was in college, my major was history. My major was European history because I didn't think American history was interesting enough. Yes. So when we were stationed in Germany, I asked my dad Papa sent me all his research. And by the time we came back to the United States, I was totally
knee deep in it. Huh?
Oh yes, absolutely, and started doing work for not only my family but for other people.
So, Jill, do you think it was a calling for you, or something that your family had probably been very involved in? And
I hadn't thought about it being a calling, but yes, I do think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's how I can serve other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's how I can serve other people in
Yeah.
a way that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. And you know, I know my mom, she was very, very keen on wanting to know her family history, and she's no longer with us, but she passed a lot of that stuff on to myself and to my brothers and sisters as well. And but you know, for somebody to, at some age, it kind of became ingrained in you that this is what I want to do the rest of my life. And
Yes,
it's got to be really rewarding
it is very.
that somebody from out of town comes in and they're looking for,
Yes.
maybe did my family own property in Montgomery County at one time, or what, and you can help them find.
It is, I don't want to overstate it, but yes, it is. It's very rewarding. And at the end of the day, when you've helped somebody find some piece of information that they didn't even know existed, you go home with a really good feeling. And when I started working for the clerk's office, we didn't have an archives. We didn't have one in this county. And when the county decided to create the archives, I was one of about 20 applicants. And I can't tell you, I was so excited when they told me that I had been appointed. I promise.
Oh, I know you were. I know you were.
I was really, really excited about it.
Yeah. Who was mayor then?
Bobby Thompson.
Yeah, he was a good man.
Yes,
wasn't
he was.
Yeah, and in my eyes, somewhat of an historian himself.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's one of the most challenging but interesting things about what we do is Montgomery County has so many communities of kinship, that's what we call it. So your family originally came from Robertson County to Montgomery County to the Ringgold community, but the Palmyra area, the Shiloh, South Side, the Fort Campbell area, everybody has their little sphere,
They sure do.
Venn diagram type thing.
Yeah.
And yes, it's absolutely fascinating. And part of the reason that it's important to me to help other people is everybody that does research of this kind has a brick wall, somebody you can't quite get past. And I always think about, if I can help somebody get past that brick wall, somebody's gonna come along one day and help me get past mine. So,
Wow.
anyway.
That is pretty cool. That's neat, and it's special.
It is.
I've never looked at it that way.
it is to me, it's a very special job.
So 1990, you came to work for the county.
That's right.
So sometime pre-90, y'all decided to settle in Montgomery County. What made y'all, what attracted you to Montgomery County?
The history, the heritage, the people. When we first moved here, the very first time, well, I knew I went to college in Nashville, and one of my best friends was from here. So we came here on the weekends sometimes to visit her or stay here. But anyway, so we came back, and I have to tell you, the first two things I did was find a place to go to church, and find a place to go to some kind of historical function. I'm not kidding. But Montgomery County is a beautiful county, and it has such rich heritage.
Yeah.
Such a rich heritage. The river, the tobacco, the iron industry, everything. It makes us what we are today.
It does, and you know, I say this a lot. We have a very diverse population,
Yes.
but our community as a whole is very diverse.
Oh,
When you
yes.
talk about the different type of industries, and you know, I can remember, and a lot of people won't remember this, but I can remember our downtown just having these ginormous tobacco warehouses.
Oh, yes.
I mean, just huge buildings, like thousands of square feet,
Yes.
that were right in the middle of downtown.
Right.
And you know, we had Bootster Manufacturing downtown, obviously the Clarksville Foundry,
Yeah.
but we are very diverse in I don't know the word, obviously in our population, in our demographics, but our community as a whole, whether it's industries, whether it's the landscape, all of that. I mean, we have rivers, we have forests, we have lots of big farms. It's
Yes.
just pretty cool.
It is, and that, I hadn't thought about it, but that is exactly right. The topography of the county.
That was the word I was looking for,
is
topography.
so different. When you drive from District 1 out where, the Guthrie community, Hampton Station, and then you drive across the river into either Southside or Palmyra, totally
Yeah, I mean, you
Totally
go
different.
up north, it's big old flat fields
That's right.
and big stands of hardwood, but you go to the south side of the county, it's a lot of rolling hills, a lot of up and down
Hollers.
hills and hollers.
Those are
Yeah.
hollers. But that's part of it.
Yeah.
And the people that came here from different places to populate Montgomery County, and many of these, your family's a great example of that. They've been here for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I can't say I grew up here, but I have roots in Tennessee. So, and I found out after I'd been here for many years that I actually had some very distant relatives that lived here.
You were kidding.
No, well, I was a bit dumbfounded. I didn't think I had any relatives in 50 miles any side of Montgomery County.
That is neat.
So-
That is neat. Jill, what would you tell somebody that just say they walked in your office over there and they were looking for some history and they were like, I'm thinking about maybe moving to Clarksville, Montgomery County. Why would you tell them to move here? You probably just said it all.
Well, I love the community, and it is a diverse community. We have become more diverse culturally, so anybody that walks in over there, I think, it's a great community, the good people, good churches, good jobs. And I don't want to sound like an ad for Montgomery County, but we have a lot to offer somebody that's moving here. Fort Campbell's right up the road. We're close to Nashville. We have so many things to do here. And I used to get really frustrated when we were here, stationed at Fort Campbell, with people who said, oh, there's just nothing to do at Fort Campbell. Even 20 years ago, there were lots of things to do here.
Mm-hmm.
And now there are more things to do. And so it's a great place to live. It's a great place to bring up your family. Good schools. And that's something I did leave off of that list.
So when you decided you were going to go out and help support your family, and you went to work for Miss Dry at the county clerk's office, she was a really good lady too, by the way. She was I loved her to death. Did you ever think you'd end up working in government for 30 plus years?
No, I can't believe it's been that many years. No, never occurred to me that how fast time goes.
Mm-hmm.
And not, it's a cliche, but the older you get, the faster it goes. And to think about the moves we made immediately after the tornado and all seriously, the challenges of moving, set up, move, set up again. The time was gone before we even knew it.
Yeah.
Time was just rolled really fast. No, I could not. If somebody had told me that years ago, I would have said, I don't know what I would have said, but I would have found it hard to believe.
Yeah, and there's so many people that don't realize that the clerk's office where you went to work was right downtown by the courthouse.
That's right.
I mean, if Veterans Plaza was Harvey's, Rose's, Cooper and Martin Drugstore, Montgomery Ward's,
the jewelry shop,
yeah.
Hancock's, yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. When we tell someone that's coming in from out of town, directions and we always, are you familiar with Clarksville? Have you been here before? Oh, not for a long time. Do you remember the garden center of Montgomery Ward's? That's where we are. Oh yes, I know exactly.
I remember the garden center of Montgomery Ward's, but I didn't until you said that.
Yeah, but that's.
You're exactly right.
We're moved over a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's what people remember.
Yeah.
If you remember Montgomery Ward's, you can find us with
Yeah,
very
and
easy.
a lot of people today, and probably some people in this room that are helping us put this together, probably have never heard of Montgomery
That's
Ward's.
right, and that's exactly right. And we've changed this community, and I'm talking about Clarksville, not just the county, but Clarksville itself has changed so much that some of these, I catch myself saying, oh, go down here and turn at the hospital, or do you remember where the hospital was? Well, no, you better tell them Publix because they won't remember the hospital.
Well, I think it's so obvious hearing you and having this conversation with you, and we've talked a lot about what y'all do in your office, but we've talked a lot about Clarksville, Montgomery County. But just your passion for the history of it, we couldn't find anybody better to be in the role that you're in because you really, really care about preserving the history of Montgomery County. And I consider you, as I said, I consider y'all the Montgomery County Museum. And nothing against Customs House.
Right.
But y'all, as far as Montgomery County records are, y'all are the museum. So this is gonna be, I think I know the answer to this, and I think most people watching would know the answer to this.
Okay.
Well, what's one of the most gratifying experiences you've had since you've been Director of Archives?
Probably the most, and it would be, I wrote down 2 or 3 things just thinking about it. The most was the day we moved into that office after moving after the tornado.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we look like in the basement of the clerk's office.
Golly, I don't know if everybody can see this picture. Hopefully you can, but.
That is smaller than our reference
Oh
room.
my gosh.
Our reference room that the public uses right now is about half of that's what I had in the basement, literally.
Wow.
And we were there till the tornado in 1999. And really and truly, we didn't lose one single thing in the tornado. But the challenge of moving from one place, and we moved 6 or 7 times, literally. And we moved 4 times in that first year after the tornado. So I would have to say the most gratifying time was opening the door and locking that door for the first time over there. That was tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
And that's full.
A home.
Yeah.
We had a home that we could call our own. And yes, that one I have to say that was number one.
Well, and I think in today's world, unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are happening that are maybe trying to wipe out some of our history, and I'm not going to get into any of that, but I think knowing who we were and the people of this community is so important. And 40 years from now, people are going to want to know about Jill and Jim, and they're going to want to know about things that happened in county government and why did they happen. And
absolutely.
And y'all got it.
And we have it, but if we don't, we're certainly trying to get it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And we try to keep that in mind, that it's not just today, it's for the future
Right,
of this county.
Yeah.
At all of it,
all of it.
all of it.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank
And it's so obvious that you're so compassionate about what you do. And so I just want to say thank you for what you do. And Montgomery County's lucky to have you as Director of Archives, because if I try to say what your title is, I'll mess it up again.
Thank you.
Jill, thank you so much.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.